everyone, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to look at how we can act realistically or naturally in the way that we listen and react during a scene. I've mentioned this before in a previous video, but just in case you're new here, what I mean by realistic is basically just looking like we're not acting when we are. Of course, acting realistically is a contradiction because acting is not at all realistic. It's all about pretending to be someone you're not, in theory. And the current fashion is for actors to be able to act as if they're not acting at all. Casting directors look for realistic, natural behaviours and genuine looking thought behind the eyes. An actor who is self-conscious or clearly in control of every aspect of their performance and their acting technique comes across as self-conscious, and this ruins their believability. We're aware they're acting, and we feel like we're being lied to. Acting realistically, therefore, is more about instinct and feeling and being in the moment, so that our eyes are natural and our gestures are natural. They don't just look natural. Because forcing a gesture is never a good thing. They're supposed to look natural, obviously. But don't aim for that. Just be. This, of course, presents us with a paradox. We have to act well, but at the same time, to act well is to appear as though we're not acting. It's a paradox because the more theory or forced acting skills you put on the performance, the more self-aware you become and the less realistic you look. You move further away from instinct. As such, you literally can't analyse yourself when you act, which kind of makes actor theory training pointless if you can't incorporate an awareness of that theory in your performance and access your own acting as you're doing it. It's like, why study acting if you should then just be? We have to trust that all that knowledge is still there, and we have to rely solely on our instinct during the scene. So how can you know that you're doing the acting right? What does it feel like to act realistically? Listening and reacting. Well, one way is to focus on listening and reacting above any character traits that you might be trying to portray, or above any acting technique, or the way you come across as an actor. Looking like we are or aren't acting lies a lot in the quality of the interaction your character has with another character, or the situation, or the overarching context your character finds themselves in. By focusing on what's around the character and not the character themselves, we can reduce the tendency to think about our own body language and acting technique. This will make us seem more natural and realistic. In short, forget about yourself. Focus on everything else your character is experiencing and react as truthfully as you can to that. You may question at this point whether this is acting or actually living in the experience. But think of when we were children, playing make-believe. We got lost in our imaginary adventures and didn't care about what we looked like. We were still pretending and still immersed in the made-up stories, so it's still acting. You can still get lost in a story and react and listen whilst at the same time still be pretending or acting. It still counts as acting, basically. I think we just have to remember what it was like to be children. Focus on the other actor. Listening to the other actor in the scene and focusing on them above how you come across to the camera is going to put you in a mindset that's more akin to real life and hopefully help you tap into your instinct. This in turn should help you immerse yourself in the scene and behave more naturally. You'll be gesturing more naturally because it'll be you making those gestures, and you'll hopefully have a more natural look in your eyes. Allow yourself to really react to the other character and relax into this. When the focus is on the other actor, your own face can relax and not be this forced acting expression, which never looks good. Listen with an objective and hear those obstacles. Things are said and listened for with agendas in mind. People think multiple things at once, usually. They're aware of where they've come from, where they are going, what they'll do later. Maybe they're hungry, worried about a looming deadline, happy about their new kitten waiting for them at home, and so many other things. This will impact the way in which they listen in the scene. Natural behaviour isn't about listening and reacting to every single thing the other character says. No one does this in real life. Doing this will make you look two-dimensional and flat in terms of your expressions. And yes, it's an easy trap to fall into as an actor because we know what's going to happen next, and so it's tempting to unknowingly preempt this in the way we listen and react. But in real life, people have wants and needs and are constantly moving towards their own goals. Again, Stanislavski's goals and objectives. Therefore, you listen with an objective in mind. For instance, if it's a job interview, you listen for those buzzwords that say you've got the job. If you're on a date, you'll most likely listen for buzzwords or mannerisms that tell you that the other person likes you. If you're in an exam, performance exam, you'll look for key mannerisms and behaviours that suggests the examiner likes your performance and you're going to get a good mark. Likewise, you'd feel an impact if your character heard something they didn't want to hear, or they didn't hear something they wanted to hear. This would be an obstacle, wouldn't it? Something that would prevent your character from achieving their goals. For instance, maybe your character isn't getting the reassurance they're looking for from another character. Maybe they can't hear those buzzwords in that interview. You have to react to what you don't get if it impacts your character's agendas, as well as reacting to what you do get. Basically, listen actively and don't try to preempt things. In real life, you wouldn't have the script. Moments and context. Listening with an objective or agenda helps you generate the right level of emotion and behaviour within each moment in a scene. Emotions are not generic in real life. They are specific according to a context. For instance, there is an appropriate level of, say, anger to be expressed in a given moment and in relation to a specific context. It's never generic anger, and it's never the same in every situation. One situation might have your character suppressing annoyance. Maybe another has them screaming in rage. Maybe another brings you to tears. Maybe another moment is an anger mixed with a reminiscing moment. Reminiscing. Melancholy. When you listen to the other actor, you'll find that each take will be different according to how the other actor acts as well. In film acting, when you're on set, take 1 will be different from take 2. For example, if the other character or actor is more aggressive in take 2, your response has to be appropriate to that situation. You can't do what you've already practiced if it's not to react to something majorly aggressive. It just won't make sense otherwise. So maybe this means you have to act more defensive in that take. This is where instinct comes in. By listening and focusing on the other character in the scene, you're encouraged not to repeat the way you say things on every take. You'll be acting in the moment, and you'll be reacting to the other character in each moment. You won't be generalising an emotion and replicating that emotion time and time again. That just looks false. Acting naturally and realistically is not merely listening and reacting, but about taking into account the specific moment and context and reacting appropriately. Dialogue is contextual. There are objectives and obstacles that inform what you do with your lines in the moment. Your character is constantly reading the situation to see what they want. You're a 3D character, not a sounding board. There are so many situations where I need to shout that out. When we want to act naturally, we don't merely react to the other character's words alone. As human beings, we consider multiple things all at once, usually, such as the room you're in, how hot or cold you are. Maybe you notice the person you're talking to has a loose eyelash, or particular mannerisms, or maybe you wonder what the person's true agenda is. You'll hear what the person says, but you'll be trying to work out what they mean all the time and what this means for you, no matter how trivial the conversation is. All these seemingly unimportant things enter our thoughts when we listen and react to other people. These different thoughts and agendas, when we listen, give us a more thoughtful look in our eyes, and not that deadpan flat expression you sometimes see with starting out screen actors. This flat, forced expression in the eyes is because those actors have focused solely on the words of the other character and how they think their character should react within the narrative. The point is, you're not supposed to know how your character should react in the scene, not if you're trusting your instinct and adapting from moment to moment, because that character doesn't know how the story will end, even though you do. Live each moment and react to the other actor accordingly. You can have a rough idea of what you want to do, of course, but don't fix it. Don't reify it. It must be dynamic and alive. Varying interpretation, my top tip. If you made it this far, here's a bonus top tip for you next time you're in an audition or on set. You might be asked by the CD, casting director, or director to provide a different interpretation. How do you do this? Well, change what your character wants to hear, what their agenda is, and how they're listening with this agenda in mind. React to the new objective your character wants to hear. Different interpretations aren't about acting and performing differently, but about changing your character's objectives instead. This will mould your acting performance to suit a different situation, whilst at the same time still looking natural and keeping the same character, not seeming like you're changing personality. Well, that's me for now. So I hope it's been useful.